Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and says it's 26th of August, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So Coin Center is out today with a detailed factual explanation of how Tornado Cash works. Now, this is quite detailed. I read through it today, and I kind of learned a lot about how Tornado Cash works under the hood in even more depth. I've obviously got a good understanding of how it works, but this goes very, very deep into it, and basically has a whole overview of how the contracts work, how things like the relayers work, how the mixing actually works, how the compliance tool works. Because for those of you who don't know, Tornado Cash actually had a compliance tool that allowed you to essentially prove where the funds were going to and where they went via a PDF report because of the fact that the cryptography powering Tornado Cash allows you to do that. So, it's kind of funny how far Tornado Cash went to make sure that they provided everything for users and made sure that the users could kind of like protect themselves from certain things. But I mean, we still saw what happened with the OFAC sanctions. But I do want to give a huge shout out here to Coin Center. They have been so active with, I guess, like since the OFAC sanctions happened, they've been trying to educate as many people as they can. They've been putting out posts like this, and they really are a great non-for-profit organization within crypto in order to kind of like bridge that gap between crypto and the kind of politics side of things, right? And the regulation, the law side of things. They've been at it for a very long time. It's obviously, Coin Center is obviously nothing new here, but they've been doing a lot of amazing work, especially around Tornado Cash since these sanctions hit. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that you have to go donate, but as they are non-for-profit, they basically are funded through donations. I believe they have an ETH address at coincenter.eth that you could donate to, and they typically have a Gitcoin grant spun up as well. So I just wanted to give them just such a shout out here because they're doing instrumental work and a very, very important work that, I mean, few of us actually have the knowledge and know-how and access to do. At the end of the day, if you want to convince lawmakers, if you want to convince regulators, you got to speak in their language. You got to play in their playground. I can't do that. I mean, I have an understanding of how things work, but I don't think they would kind of like listen to me. I don't think I'd be able to prepare the proper statements, whereas Coin Center does that. They act as our bridge, which I think obviously is extremely important. I highly recommend going and giving this detailed explainer a read if you just want to learn all about Tornado Cash and all there is to learn about it, and how the tool is not made to enable money laundering, right? The tool is a tool. It's made to allow anyone to essentially protect their privacy, because blockchains just do not give us privacy by default, except I mean, I shouldn't say all of them. Obviously Monero and Zcash allow for privacy at layer 1, but most blockchains out there, especially Ethereum, do not give you any privacy. So we need these third-party tools, or we need these kind of like applications that are built on top of these networks to allow it. And yeah, I mean, as I said, go give this blog post a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so I wanted to highlight this amazing little staking setup here. I shouldn't say little, it's a pretty big staking setup here that David Theodore shared to Superfizz. So he's basically got a setup running on Starlink and is powered by pure solar power here in a caravan. So obviously David here is a bit of a nomad, and you can see his setup in his caravan here, and you can see the solar panels, and you can see basically, him kind of, I think this is in Canada, I believe. Is this? No, it's in. There are different pictures in different places. So one of them was in Colorado and Forks, WA. I don't know what WA is. I don't know what state that is in the US. Maybe Washington. Northern CA, which I'm assuming is California. But this is just so cool. I mean, as I said the other day, I love that Superfizz started this trend because there's this popular narrative, I guess, within the wider crypto circles that no one can run an Ethereum full node. No one runs, no one solo stakes, no one's a home validator. Well, here you have someone who's literally off grid running validators, and he's not only running mainnet validators. I believe he's running girly validators as well, testnet validators, and also fuzzing a beacon chain clients, which is part of testing the merge. So, I mean, David is just, I guess, like the quintessential Ethereum, going off grid, living the life basically as a nomad, visiting awesome places, and still being able to run validators on the network. And if you go to the stake from home hashtag, there's a lot of new setups there since I covered it last time. Really, really cool. A bunch, I'm actually surprised by the amount of nucks there are. It's kind of funny because like a nuck, as I explained on the last refuel, it's the easiest piece of hardware, I guess, to buy. You can slap like a DApp node on it and just make it super. A DApp node is a piece of software you can slap on it and just make it super easy to stake. But yeah, there's so many nucks. There's Raspberry Pis. There's full-blown server racks. There's so many. I mean, there's Avados here, as you can see, which come preloaded with DApp node. There's even some Mac Minis and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, you can see all the setups, which I think is very, very cool. I just love this sort of shit, guys. Like, you guys know that from day one, I had my own PC set up to stake with, for staking from home. I was a Beacon Chain Genesis validator, and I've added many validators since then to my setup. I can't think of anything more, I guess, important than being a solo staker on the Beacon chain as an Ethereum. That should be everyone's goal if you're a true Ethereum. I know that the barrier to entry at 32 ETH is quite high, but Rocket Pool, for example, is lowering that barrier. You can do it with 16 ETH right now. They're planning to lower that even more in order to run those mini pools. Yes, it is not like 100% the same as solo staking and fully sovereign solo staking, but it's close enough, I think. I don't blame people for not being able to get the 32 ETH. That is a very high barrier to entry. It's the highest barrier to entry. And maybe that'll be lowered in the future sometime. But if you do have 32 ETH and you're willing to put it up, I mean, as I've said before, staking is not risk-free, but you're willing to put it up for staking, you should always go the path of solo staking, in my opinion. It is the best way to stake. Second best, I would say, at this point in time is probably Rocket Pool, because they just got such an amazing decentralized setup there. But if you have the 32 ETH required, solo staking is definitely the way to go. You don't have to go as all out as David here has done with solar power and Starlink and all that. You can obviously run at home, but I guess this is David's home, right? Like, and he's just gone the extra mile. So I wanted to highlight that and talk a little bit about how I think it definitely does reflect, the Ethereum kind of ethos of running, on grid or off grid, running a node, running a validator. That is what being an Ethereum means. So very, very cool to see this. Thank you to David for sharing it, and thank you to Superfizz again for getting this trend going. Maybe I don't know if he's doing this, if Superfizz is doing this. Maybe someone should create a website where we can have pictures of everyone's staking setups, or just basically document everything and all the tweets on there, so that we can just scroll through it from time to time and see and just get inspired by how many people are staking from home. Because honestly, I felt inspired going through all of it. Because it's all well and good for people to say, oh yeah, I stake at home, oh yeah, I do this, oh yeah, I do that. But it's another level to actually visualize it, to see these boxes, to see people's different staking setups, and to see that it really is different for every single person. Like, no staking setups are alike. Just because someone has the same NUC as someone else doesn't mean their setup is the same. They could have any number of different setups going. People get really creative with it, as David here has done. Other people have like breadboards with Raspberry Pis attached, kind of like cable tied to it, and linking them all up. So you can get as creative as you want with it at the end of the day. Like, you guys have seen my setup. It's just a basic PC. It's nothing over the top, but I put like a figurine in it, I put a little car in it, and I put like a Vitalik sticker on it. So I made it my own. Like, that's the whole point. You make it your own, and you are contributing to the security, decentralization, and just well-being of the Ethereum Beacon chain, which obviously is very, very cool. But yeah, I'm going to move on from that. Just wanted to highlight it for everyone today. All right, so I missed this a couple of days ago, but Kain Warwick from Synthetics has put out this tweet where he said, the other day I found out that EIP 4844 effort is bandwidth constrained. And this is the proto-dank sharding effort. The same thing happened in the early days of 1559 work in 2019. I spoke to Tim Biker and offered to help fund bounties with up to 100,000 SNX. I just sent out the first batch. So that's about $300,000, I believe, at current SNX price. So it's nothing to scoff at. And you can see on Etherscan here the transaction that it's the first batch has been dispersed out, which is very cool to see. But yeah, Kain was pretty instrumental in getting EIP 1559 across the line with, or I guess like getting work to actually begin on it in earnest, because of the fact that there was bandwidth constraints and there was money constraints and all that, and he's using his platform and he's using things like SNX, which I assume is his SNX, to get the ball rolling here. And this is really cool that he's gotten the ball rolling on 4844. I don't have any timelines still on proto-dank sharding. I feel like it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this just before. The merge is very, very close now. but it's kind of, we're just waiting at the moment. Like the mainnet clients are out. They're all published and everything like that. Besides the Geth bug, I think the rest of the core devs are probably just doing run-of-the-mill testing, doing kind of like as much testing as they can to make sure everything's all well and good. But other than that, I feel like people are itching to move on to the next thing. They want to be able to work on the next upgrades coming to Ethereum now that the merge is pretty much done. We're just waiting for it to be activated on mainnet. And EIP 4844 is at the forefront. Obviously, we need beacon chain withdrawals, and I think recent events has showed us that we need them much sooner than we otherwise would have. But that's like a relatively basic thing to do. I think the only hold up with beacon chain withdrawals is that they want to see the chain running for a while under proof of stake before they do another hard fork or do another upgrade, which is fair enough, right? And they obviously want to give the core devs a time to kind of like step back a bit, take a break, because they've been working so hard on the merge for so long. But EIP 4844 is definitely something that should be at the very top of the priority list here, simply because we have the window opportunity right now where the market's quiet, it's a bear market, the usage is relatively quiet. So we can get this out by the time, if the bull market comes back next year, hopefully by early next year, we have proto-dank sharding live on the network, and then we have those very, very cheap transactions at layer 2. Because in my mind, the worst thing that could happen for Ethereum is that we have these layer 2s live, but layer 1 hasn't kind of given them what they need through proto-dank sharding, and we have this massive influx of users again, and they still don't get the benefits of layer 2. I think that's one of the worst things that could happen. Now, do I expect the bull market to come back anytime soon? I have no idea. I think that Arbitrum has proven, and Optimism, I should say as well, has proven that just because it's a bear market doesn't mean that they can't saturate their activity. I mean, you saw Arbitrum saturate its activity very, very quickly via the Odyssey program, and that's restarting soon. Nitro is a week away from today, less than a week away from today. So I'm assuming Odyssey is going to restart shortly after that, and they're kind of like just filling up that capacity. Like you can't just. So this is the thing with scaling, and this is the thing with offering more block space. You offer more block space, especially valuable block space, especially Ethereum block space, right? You offer more of that, developers are going to fill it, users are going to fill it, and then you're just back to square one. That's why scaling is a never-ending thing. Like, we're never going to get to a point where we're like, okay, Ethereum scaled enough, let's not scale anymore. It is a constant thing. Scaling layer 1, scaling layer 2, and all the other stuff around it, right? I know Starkware's been talking about layer 3 and layer 4. And things like that, but it is an ongoing process. Just because people say, oh, it's layer 2 summer, or it's this summer, that summer, at the end of the day, like DeFi summer wasn't just a kind of one-time thing for DeFi. Like, obviously DeFi summer was very very active, and there was a lot going on, but DeFi building hasn't stopped since then. There's a lot of innovations that have come out. There's a lot of DeFi products that have gone live since then. Obviously most of them fail because that's just the way it is with things. Like, most things end up failing, but the things that succeed and continue to succeed, such as Uniswap as the quintessential example, is doing amazingly. And I'm sure V4 is going to be out sooner rather than later, or at least be announced sooner rather than later, which is, obviously going to probably change the game again. I think Uniswap's got a good track record there. But yeah, I think we need 4844 ASAP. I don't think we're getting it until early next year. I think beacon chain withdrawals might come as its own separate hard fork, which would mean that we might not get proto-dank sharding until Q2 at the earliest next year. So we're going to have to see. I'm just literally throwing out dates right now with not much context behind them. It's not like the merge dates that I used to throw around where I actually had context behind it. Until the merge is done, until a few weeks after it, I don't even think I'm going to have any sort of accurate picture on what's going to happen here, because I don't think that the core devs even have that. They know what they want to build, they know what they want to do, but it's all about priorities. And I think, as I said, beacon chain withdrawals have become a bigger priority than they once were, but so is EIP 4844, so is scaling. Like that's the problem with things that are all high priority. You have to kind of, put something as like critical priority. And I don't know if I consider beacon chain withdrawals to be critical priority at this point. Yes, they are high priority, but I do think that 4844 is just as important. But we'll have to see. As I said, I'll keep you guys up to date on any kind of context around dates that I come across. But right now, it seems that everyone's just waiting for the merge, holding their breath, wanting the merge to go well and go smoothly. And then we can move on to talking about these next upgrades that are coming after the merge. All right, so a new update out of Obol Labs here today. So Ashin on Twitter posted surfacing today after a crazy last few weeks to say we have released Charon version 0.1. This is our biggest release yet and is based on everything we've learned from rolling out our first testnet Athena. So you can go to GitHub and check out the release here, but you can read Ashin's thread here as well for a description of what happened here. And I'll read a little bit just to give you an idea. So he says, over the last month, we've had over 100 distributed validated clusters created by our community, and most of them have been able to get up and are testing on Girly. It is hugely encouraging to see something you have worked on so hard on get picked up and loved by eager enthusiasts. The biggest feature in this release to flaunt is Charon now supports blinded beacon blocks and MEV boost. Shout out to Ciaran here, Ciaran, yep, for the hard work on this and the Teku and Lighthouse teams for assisting. We've also spent a huge amount of time improving Charon's self-healing such that it can handle boot node failures better, which we've had to deal with a lot over the last month due to unprecedented demand. Very, very cool to see that this DVT from Obol is coming along very nicely, it seems here. I think that this blinded beacon blocks, I haven't heard of that before. But I wonder if it's got to do with the shutterized beacon chain I spoke about the other day. If I just Google blinded beacon blocks, I'm not coming up with anything here. No, it's coming up with Minecraft results. Okay, so that's not relevant there. I wonder what that is. I actually have to see what blinded beacon blocks is. So because I think that sounds like the shutterized beacon chain, and what I mean by that, it sounds like you may be able to have, no, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I'm not going to kind of like go too deep into that. But maybe it's on the GitHub. If I go here, GitHub, blinded beacon blocks anywhere. No, maybe it's an Obol specific thing. I'll have to kind of like look into that and get back to that. But very cool to see that version 1 is out here of Charon, which is kind of like Obol's technology here. And DVT is going to obviously play a very big and important part post-merge with staking. It's something that's going to help a lot with decentralization of the beacon chain. And I mean, as a practical example here, basically what this allows for is that you can retain ownership of your and custodianship over your keys when staking, but you can outsource the staking to a centralized exchange like Coinbase, for example, and they can run the validator for you. So I think that's the simplest example of this, but it's a really powerful one because it means you don't have to give up custody of your ETH when kind of like staking here. Yes, there's still obviously slashing risk and things like that, but it means you can kind of keep the keys on your own. You can exit at any time without needing permission from the, I guess, staking service provider to exit. Now, that's going to be mostly important post withdrawals, but yeah, this technology is very, very important. So great to see this latest release here. So if you're looking for some beacon chain decentralization data, Superfizz has a list of websites here that will give you everything that you need. I have gone through a bunch of these websites on the Refuel before, such as ethsunshine.com, clientdiversity.org, and a bunch of others here. This was Project Sunshine, which has got to do with measuring the health of Ethereum's decentralization. I remember highlighting this a while ago. So it measures things like consensus client diversity, execution client diversity, and a bunch of other things like geolocation diversity, staking pool diversity, and stuff like that, which I think is obviously very important. Like, if we want to ensure that we have the healthiest beacon chain possible, we need to be able to monitor metrics and have accurate metrics and also educate users on how they can help improve the metrics too. So that's the Project Sunshine. Clientdiversity.org is that website that I kind of went through the other day, going over what client diversity looks like on both the consensus layer and execution layer. We all know the execution layer needs some work here, but that's going to be a focus post-merge. And then there's a bunch of others like Raider.network, Ethereum pools, Beacon Chain. Like, you can go check these out. I'll link them in the YouTube description. But these are ways to keep up with the Ethereum Beacon Chain specifically, and things that surround that and things that surround Proof of Stake. So definitely go check all those out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so Eleanor here from A16 Crypto has announced that A16Z is committing $300,000 for open source developers in the next round of Gitcoin grants, which is Gitcoin grants round 15, which is happening next month on September 7th to September 22nd. This is awesome. I love seeing big name VCs like A16Z giving back here. That's a healthy chunk of change. Yes, I know A16Z has billions of dollars and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, like $300,000 is quite large for something like this. And this is just one thing that they're doing. I think it's kind of funny because A16Z and these big name VCs, they cop a lot of flack for their investments, and they do invest in a lot of things, and inevitably, some of those things are not going to be, great investments, are not going to be things that we agree with. I do want to make two notes here. One, they have a lot of money from the rounds that they raised, and they have to deploy that money. If they don't deploy that money, the investors will take that money out and go elsewhere, and then A16Z loses business, so to speak, right? So they have to deploy that money. And that means, when they've raised billions and billions of dollars, putting money into basically everything that is even half decent, right? And then secondly, they do a lot of work outside of crypto, from what I can tell, especially on like the regulatory side. And because they have so much money and they have connections, they can do things that we may not ever be privy to, but have that pay dividends. And there's also things that we are privy to, like them committing $300,000 to open source developers on Gitcoin grants. So I sometimes kind of get annoyed when people, I guess, like put all the VCs in the same bucket, so to speak, because there are extractive VCs out there. I mean, I've gone on record before, and I've made fun of them on Twitter a lot. Multicoin Capital, for example, they're very extractive, I believe. I don't think that they really a net positive for the ecosystem. They extract a lot more value than what they put in. It's kind of and it's kind of hard to quantify this as well, but I don't think I'd bucket A16Z in there. I don't think I'd bucket Paradigm in there. I'm just thinking of like the big name VC, the really big name VCs. There's a bunch of others out there as well. But when you're looking at these sorts of things, like, I know it's easy to say all VCs are evil, but I don't think they are. And I think that A16Z didn't have to do this. They didn't have to send $300,000 to Gitcoin grants here and kind of basically donate it to them here. So I'm really happy to see this. I hope they continue to do this, because this is going to go towards funding public goods, which you guys know, I mean, if anything, I'm a public goods maxi, right, at the end of the day. So good to see this, but I'm always curious to hear what you guys think. Like, I'm not trying to defend anyone or put anyone on a pedestal here. I'm not an investor in A16Z myself. I'm pretty sure I've co-invested with them on various projects, but that doesn't change my opinion or anything. I just want to see more nuanced takes a lot of the time when it comes to investors, especially ones that are giving back to the community. That's critically important. We need to support that as well. So yeah, I guess, like, thank you to A16Z Crypto for doing this. Really, really appreciative of it. All right, so Compound has announced today that Compound V3, I guess, is live. So Compound V3 is a streamlined version of the protocol with an emphasis on security, capital efficiency, and user experience. This is the largest upgrade Compound has done in quite a while. Compound has been quiet for a while, right? Like, they obviously kicked off DeFi Summer in May, June 2020 with the comp liquidity mining, and they were instrumental in just DeFi Summer becoming as big as it was. But in terms of, like, their strategy over the last couple of years, I haven't really agreed with it. They tried to do their comp chain thing, which didn't materialize. They've been very slow to deploy to other networks, whether they be layer 2s or side chains. And now they've come out with V3 very, very, I guess, like, very, very long after V2. Now, that's getting that out of the way. I still think this is a pretty cool upgrade that what they've kind of done here. So it basically includes advanced account management tools for developers and new UX for applications to be built on top of the protocol, like a starter interface, as you can see here. And there's a bunch of markets that have been launched with with Compound V3 that allow you to borrow USDC using ETH, WBTC, Link, Uni, and Comp. And over time, the protocol will support more assets on more blockchains. So as I've talked about before, they are planning to expand to other layer 2s and layer 1s and side chains. They've just been kind of slow on that front there. And yeah, this is live right now, which is live on the Ethereum mainnet, I should say, which is very cool to see. And I think the biggest upgrade, as you can see in the second tweet here, is that collateral remains your property. So nobody else can borrow or withdraw it. It's safer. While you won't earn interest on the collateral, you'll be able to borrow more with less risk of liquidation and lower liquidation penalties while spending much less on gas. I think that's a pretty big feature because, as I've mentioned before, in a lot of these money markets, when you put the collateral in, and then if that collateral goes to like 100% borrow, then you have to wait until some of it gets paid back for you to withdraw. And it can become like you can be locked into a position for a little while there, depending on market conditions. So this is really cool. And I kind of like was saying that Compound moves slow. I don't actually think that's an overall negative. I think you want certain projects to move slow instead of moving really fast and trying to add everything just for security reasons. Because at the end of the day, in terms of like, I would have to say in terms of where I'd put my money and to borrow against it, I still think for me Maker would be number one. I would still put my ETH into Maker and borrow against it on there because I think Maker would be the most secure. But then Compound and Aave are pretty much tied, I think, for me. I've used both of them. I've used like all of these kind of money markets, and it's just about what I feel most comfortable with based on a variety of factors. And I would say that Maker's definitely first, and then Compound and Aave would be tied for second here. And I think Aave, even Aave doesn't move that quickly. They've been much quicker to deploy on other chains, but in terms of major protocol upgrades, they still move relatively slow. I think Compound's just the slowest of the bunch. Maker is definitely the slowest of the bunch, but but Compound is probably the second slowest there. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Slow and steady, secure, and making sure that the protocol doesn't get hacked or exploited and people don't lose money is a very, very important thing. But yeah, that's why it's probably taken so long for Compound V3 to come out. But it's live now. You can go use it, and I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to learn more about it. Finally here we have the Arbitrum Nitro whitepaper that has been published just in time before Arbitrum Nitro goes live on mainnet. So you can actually go here, download the PDF or just read it on GitHub and see the entire, I guess, like Nitro, all the details about Nitro here. Now, they're calling this a second generation optimistic rollup. So this is not just like a small upgrade, guys. Nitro is an absolutely massive upgrade for Arbitrum. That's why it's taken so long for it to come to mainnet. But you know what's funny? I was thinking about this the other day. Not only has Arbitrum done Nitro, they've also done Arbitrum Nova, which has Reddit using it, right? And that's actually gaining traction as well. So they're hitting it from multiple fronts right now, which is very, very cool. They're managing their ecosystem very well. They don't have a token yet, and they still have a lot of usage, which is very impressive, I must say. And they just seem to be kicking all the right goals here, which is very, very awesome to see. So if you want to read the white paper, I'll link it in the YouTube description for you to do so. It's not that long. It's not that dense either. I think it's only about 15 pages. So you can go check that out. If you've read a white paper before, you'll know exactly what you're getting yourself into. But very cool for them to publish this just in time for Arbitrum Nitro here. Which I'm super excited for personally, and I hope they restart Odyssey rather quickly so I can get back at it. Because I was having a lot of fun on it, and then it basically got paused because of the network hitting load, and I totally understood that. It hasn't actually been that long, right? It's only been a few weeks since they paused it, I believe. So it's good that they were able to get Nitro out relatively quickly, and I can't wait to see it go live. I can't wait to see them scale up, and I can't wait to see all the layer 2s continue to scale, right? Like, obviously, Optimism Bedrock is coming towards the end of the year. ZK Sync, ZKVM mainnet is coming within like 60 days or something. Polygon has their ZKVM coming to mainnet hopefully by the end of the year as well. Scroll has their ZKVM stuff happening too. Like, there's too much happening in the layer 2 space now for me to even keep up with anymore, which is amazing. I love it when that happens. So I will obviously be covering it on the Refuel, but I'm super excited to see all of this stuff. I think we're going to get like a really strong close to the year on the layer 2 front, and leading into next year, hopefully the, I guess, market heats up again so that we can get more users in, and hopefully we have that scale there for users to take advantage of, so they don't have to go to other chains. They can stay on Ethereum. They can get all the benefits of Ethereum with the cheap and fast transactions, which is what we all want at the end of the day. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks everyone.